Commission Factory.
Hey there, hustlers. Welcome back to another season of Flex Your Hustle. We've been busy over the last few months curating some amazing guests with stellar hustler stories, and we can't wait to share them with you in the coming weeks. There's going to be something in there for everyone to take away and be inspired by. I'm excited to introduce you to today's guest, Anthony Nappa, the CEO and founder of Oz Hair and Beauty. Anthony's easily one of our biggest hustlers that we've had on the show. And I mean that in the best possible way. Anthony started Oz Hair and Beauty at the tender age of just 19 years old and has grown it over the years to become the multi-million-dollar business it is today, with over 100 employees, a booming online e-com presence, and a plan for further expansion into brick-and-mortar stores over the next few months. How did he take a family-run business, see the opportunity, and grow it into the hugely successful omni-channel retail business it is today? Stick around to find out. Anthony, thank you for joining us today. Welcome to the show.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
So for all the listeners out there, why don't you give a bit of an intro to yourself and a little intro to Oz Hair and Beauty?
Yeah, my name's Anthony Nappa, CEO of Oz Hair and Beauty. We are a online and soon-to-be omni-channel multi-brand hair and beauty retailer.
Awesome. Soon to be omni-channel.
Yeah, so soon-to-be omni. You know, historically we've been mainly online retail. We do have one shop, but you can't have one shop and call yourself an omni-channel retailer. So we've got 3 launching by June this year, which will take us to 4. And yeah, if they go well, then it's on for young and old.
So you've got one of those really unique stories. Launched a business when you were fresh pup, 19 years old.
Yeah.
Tell us what happened. How did it all get started?
You know, the plan was, do a business degree, work part-time and just do an undergraduate, postgraduate work and build yourself up like that.
Mm-hmm.
I was working as a labourer and he went away to Italy to organise some family affairs, as he said.
Yep.
And so I had no work. So my dad had like a warehouse. You know, my parents are hairdressers.
And quite successful, right?
Yeah. So for 30 years, 35 years now, they've been in business. So back then they had, 4 hairdressing salons where they sold retail as well, but they did, hairdressing services. And while I was at uni, as like a part-time job or like a hobby, really, not a part-time job, a hobby, I'd sell their products at the back of his warehouse. I'd put it on eBay as they sold. I'd go and pick up the products and buy it.
So you're basically doing it all yourself. I love it as a hobby too. Seems like a pretty big job for a hobby.
Yeah. My dad tried to go online. There was like a little crappy site on the side.
And what year are we talking about?
It's 2012, February 1st.
2012, yeah. So e-com was definitely on the up. eBay was a pretty strange looking, difficult site to navigate. And we didn't have, I guess, the groundswell of like Shopify and the like to make things easier, right?
Nah, so that came 5 years later, which changed everything for us. So they had a crappy site and, not being a web guy at all, not knowing e-commerce at all. Like I just naturally gravitated towards eBay and just working that out and, the titles that you'd put, free shipping, but put this price a little bit higher or maybe, put the price cheaper but charge shipping, just working that out and how to do different thumbnails because end of the day we're selling, similar things to other people, the same product, but just find ways to differentiate yourself. So we're doing that and, from doing it from full-time uni, 10 months later, hired my first employee who was a friend at uni with me a couple of days a week to help me, pack some orders. Pretty much from there, it started growing, then I leased half the warehouse out because I was taking up a lot of room. And then, then I was, being quite a pain and clearing out his shops. And so I had to create my own accounts and then took over the full warehouse. This was probably in like 2-3 years. My second youngest brother, he was helping, on school holidays. And then when he finished school, he would come work more. And he had a real like operational mindset, like organizing the warehouse so it'd be efficient and, picking stuff and packing stuff. Like I wasn't really like that. I was just chasing my tail. I was growth. So as the business got quite big, we had probably like 4, 5, maybe 6 employees. And, he decided to come in with me in the business. Right. From there, that's when it grew. It was around the time, probably 4 years in, it was a good time because we started making a bit of a name of ourselves in the industry and suppliers were getting they didn't want to be on, because these are premium brands, right? And like they don't really want to be on eBay. So it was about that time when those conversations were starting. I met with someone who has quite a successful business, getting some advice, and pretty much said, are you building Oz Hair and Beauty or are you building, eBay? So those 4 years were trying with the websites, but I was just pretty much not really experienced with it. It wasn't working that much. Yeah, so he put me in touch with a digital agency. It was $3,000 a month. And I'm like,
oh, that's huge for a startup. You're like, what? I've already paid employees and rent, and now I've got to pay this agency.
Well, I was pretty naive because I was paying eBay a lot more than $3,000 a month, right? But like $3,000 a month for, SEO. What the hell is SEO?
It's such a mental thing.
Google AdWords, I can do that myself. I'm doing that myself.
Yeah. But then they start doing the work and you're like, oh, wow, this is why you pay an agency.
100%. And that was a digital agency, but like shout out to them, Quasi Studios. They told us to get on Shopify. That's when Shopify was starting to make a name for itself. And it was mainly for businesses like ours at the time. Now it's obviously enterprise businesses, but back then no one really big was on Shopify. So it was great for us, and we set up Google Shopping, and we were quite competitive on price back then. And we had, all the great brands due to, my father's 30 years in the industry, having relationships. So put like $4,000 a month in Google. That worked really well. Got like a 15 ROAS, and then we just kept doing $8,000. 15,000. At one point, we're spending 350,000 a month on Google. Not getting 15 ROAS. I wish. That's how it started growing with digital marketing. Then we'd start doing email campaigns, and back then eBay was 90% of our sales, and now we don't even do eBay anymore. That's pretty much our e-commerce. From eBay to our own ozhairandbeauty.com domain transition.
And how's the business doing today?
Yeah, the business is going good. 18 months ago, we took some investment.
I saw that. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's from some good traditional retail expertise to help us get into the Omni channel world. We actually moved into a bigger warehouse just before COVID where we're a bit nervous, 1,500 square meters. Previously, we were 300 square meters, but we were bursting from the seams of that. And COVID happened and it was perfect. So that helped us.
Let's talk about COVID, because it seems like you were doing great and then COVID happened and you were doing really great, where a lot of other businesses failed. Like, how did you pivot during that time? I mean, obviously being an online retailer, you had an advantage over everybody else. What was that period like for you, and how did you pivot?
A little bit bittersweet because we took over the QVB store probably a couple months before.
Huge store.
Yeah, look, at the time it actually was half the size. So we took it over and took over the shop next door. Luckily, their lease was expiring. They didn't want to renew. So we took that over, did a renovation, and then, COVID happened. But with the online retail, it really, because we were set up, had the infrastructure already there, we've been doing it for 10 years, it really just helped us. I think we grew from 20 million to 40 million in a year. And a lot of businesses didn't have that growth.
Well, you were prepared. I remember that period where most of the brands scrambled. We had a lot of clients who were like, we just don't know what to do. And the realization that Sydney at the time, Australia at the time, was extremely slow to the e-com game. Overseas, e-com is much more prevalent and important in people's everyday lives. And here, because the infrastructure isn't necessarily there, or a lot of retailers don't really promote it, it wasn't as big as the time. And I just saw so many brands that had so many conversations with that realization that I waited too long. I didn't get ahead of it. And now this thing has hit us in the face and we have to pivot super quickly. And so it's almost like brands like you who had been doing it for so long, and you guys have hacked the system the whole way. Like you made the rule book before the rule book was there. So it was almost like you're like, okay, we're primed for this. We're ready to go. We know what we're doing.
It's a good point, because when I tried to going like retail and online retail, it's, we call it Omni, but it really is different disciplines. We took over our parents' store in the QVB. I ran that project with my brother, and, it didn't really go well. Fast forward 2 years later, when we did the renovation again, and we hired a head of retail who was from General Pants, Lavisa experience. Mm-hmm. Having that experience, when we did it again, it was just chalk and cheese. So I feel like a lot of businesses, in COVID that were traditional retailers and then wanted to go to online, if you don't have that expertise, it is a different language.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's hard. It's a different.
Hard.
it is a different discipline. UX, conversion rate, that was like a different language to me. So like going from retail to online retail, hearing all these, SEO, for example, if you're a traditional retailer, you didn't know what SEO is.
Or the power of it. There's something interesting, and I wonder if it's maybe why you and your brother have been so successful at this, is you have a certain mindset and a muscle memory, particularly starting off as an online e-com. And I loved what you said before about eBay, how you were like testing the messaging, free shipping, doing this. What are the thumbnails, that kind of stuff. That's what online e-com is all about. This like obsessiveness about all the messaging. How can I continually improve, optimize, headlines, copy, imagery, that kind of stuff. And I feel like if you've worked in, sort of a brick and mortar, there's more of a time to think about this stuff, to obsess over the little details, to wait and test and see. Whereas online, you don't have time. You have to get sales better than it was yesterday and better than the week before. And so you are constantly thinking about every single element.
Yeah, that's described so perfectly. Bricks and mortar, the shop closes at 6.
Yep.
And then opens again at 9, like online's 24/7. But with online retail, there is so much bases to cover.
Yes.
UX, email, paid search, SEO, affiliate marketing, so many different facets. Then there's the back end stuff. So you're right, like you can never really sit down and really, truly be satisfied.
No, it's a 24/7 job. I bet when you're on holiday, you're still like, change this headline.
I've learned. Like, so the Shopify app, it refreshes your sales.
Yeah.
And I had we laugh about it, but it was a real mental health thing. Like, and my dad used to see me like keep checking it, and it was like a dopamine hit.
Yeah.
And my mood was based on how good the sales would be. And I used to do some stupid things like if I didn't get an order within, 5 minutes,
you freak out.
I'd go place an order on the website to check if the cart was broken. And it's more a curse than a blessing. But there was times where it was an order and then our Google Ads, our credit card was expired, so Google wasn't working. So there are good things from it, but overall mental health, like I deleted that app.
There's probably every founder listening to this nodding their head and going that they've done the same thing.
When I hear another founder say that, I just want to hug them. Like, yes. Yeah.
We're in this together.
Yeah.
I did read in one of the articles that you had the website crash for a couple of weeks. Is that the most horrific story that's happened to you?
Yeah, that was trying to change it. I tried to do some code and I Googled it and just
You crashed the website.
Crashed and
oh, how terrifying.
Spent $2,000 to fix it. And back then, that was when I was starting too.
Yeah.
That was probably all profit. So that's why you know what? Let's do eBay.
Yeah.
eBay
that's when it all started.
Out.
That's when the decision to do it happened.
Yeah.
The Flex Your Hustle podcast is made possible by the team at Commission Factory. Commission Factory is the largest performance and partner marketing network in Asia Pacific, powering tens of thousands of meaningful and scalable partnerships. If you're listening to this show, you might be looking for ways to find and activate successful connections that drive revenue for your business. Well, Commission Factory works with everyone from e-commerce brands to influencers, big digital editorial titles and cashback communities, right through to the latest apps and software that help customers convert, and they aggregate all those partnerships in the one place. You'll love how easy that makes managing it. If you're tired of paying for clicks and impressions, Commission Factory is a pay-on-performance marketing platform where you pay only when tangible sales are generated, not just eyes on the page, so it's low risk and easy to manage your bottom line. So to all you digital publishers, influencers, online retailer and marketing agency folks out there, come see what Commission Factory can do for you. Visit commissionfactory.com, where infinite partnerships are simply enabled. So let's talk a little bit about some of those tactics that you use to drive success, because I'm really interested in your story, mainly because you're one of those founders that we have on the show that didn't come from marketing. You didn't have this big background. Okay, you did a degree in business, but that doesn't necessarily give you the tools to be able to step right into a successful, online retail business or to grow it. So you hustled your way, right? You figured it out as you went. And when you launched at that time, there wasn't a rule book. You were one of the early, guys getting in there and really kind of, building it from the ground up. So what are the things that you've learnt? And maybe we can talk about, you've mentioned it a couple of times in our previous chats about customer centricity. What is it about that?
One of the tactics I figured out was, because I used to manage, the Facebook ads myself.
How'd that go for you?
At the start, obviously, it wasn't the best.
Yeah.
But it actually worked out all right. And, was it myself working it out, or was it, talking to heaps of people? And I guess I'm trying to think who told me, because I think it was actually a sales rep for GHD at the time, telling me little tactics.
I love the industry is so supportive of each other.
Yeah.
If you're a founder, every other founder wants to help you. No, there's none of this competitiveness that I think people would assume.
No, 100%. And it's good because you help, you get help. I feel like it comes in.
That's right. You have to pay it forward.
One thing I really wish I gravitated towards more, because now I'm really like, it's clicked to me. And you're going to say, a bit late, SEO.
Takes time. Not that you're late to the party, but it takes time.
It takes time.
Yeah.
And now that I've realized the formula of what to do, like, we're always doing it. So we never not did it, but I just outsourced it and trusted. I never really delved into it and figured it out. But now I've figured out like how to make it work. And it's like now that's one thing I'm really obsessed with.
And you should be. It's fundamental. It's like every other channel. You have to do CPC, you have to buy into Google, etc. SEO is a must-have and a consideration that has to continue to happen. And I've seen so many clients make the mistake of not putting the emphasis on it because they're not putting the big dollars into it like they are with CPC, for instance. And so, but the impact of that, if you pay someone regularly, it's a small team. They're pretty quiet most of the time. They just go away and they plug and they do what they do. But within a year, the impact of that is going to be so extreme. You can start to turn off your paid because your organic search is working so well for you.
Depends what company you work for. Like even for us a bit, getting a board and stuff, I started like getting into the shoes of like, got to hit numbers. And now I've just pulled that back and said, we're not hitting sales numbers just for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Let's because that's very easy to hit like a sales number, drop your price, put heaps of money in Google. You're not going to be profitable. So we've taken that approach and it's like 5-10 year approach.
Interesting.
Don't worry about the number now. Let's worry about the number in the future. We've had a lot of SEO gains without management team being fully immersed in it. So now that's the next exciting thing. That on top of doing a lot of brand stuff, which we can talk about, that's the next step. Having SEO, our stores, doing a lot of brand stuff. Hopefully in like, 2 to 3 to 3 to 4 years, it all pays off at once, which is what the timeline is. And then we can really drive profitable customer acquisitions. We are profitable now, but more profitable.
It's very brave of you as an online retailer to take, I guess, to pull back on the gas pedal in terms of like lower funnel and to think about that top and mid funnel and how do we drive that, lifetime value of a customer.
Yeah.
It's something, especially in a market like we are today, heading into a recession. There's a bit of nervousness about what's going to happen and are people going to pull back their spending, etc. That you've gone, no, let's continue to think long term. Stop thinking about short term and let's think about our strategies for the future.
I guess it's the benefit of not being a public company. We still have like shareholders as well, but they're pretty on board, which is good.
Yep.
They back us. I think you have to be always long term though. Like even back then we were long term. Right, but were we really if we're just doing Google? But back then we probably thought Google was going to be the way and it wasn't going to
You can't rely on it anymore.
You can't rely on it, no.
I've heard so many VC fund owners who talk about that one thing. We're looking for companies to invest in that don't rely on paid media to drive their business forward and to scale their business. And so it's really the way that you got to be thinking about if, you're heading into the future. How do I drive this business forward without having to rely on paid media?
Yeah. It's a bit of a drug though, starting to wean off it. Feeling a little
wean
bit
off it. It literally is like a drug.
It is wean off. Like we're feeling a bit of withdrawal reflex now.
Nervousness, anxiety.
Yeah, like I've just trained my brain not to get dopamine from sales, right? And profit takes a couple of weeks before you see what the profit is. So that's what it's really like, I think. Just training, don't look at the profit, don't look at the sales, just look at the bottom line, look at how the sales are coming in. Because, we want to go Omni as well and you're paying big rents. Because Google is like rent. It's a rent in a mall. It's a traffic driver.
Yeah. Once you're in there, it's very hard, like you said, to pull it back.
Yeah. So you don't want to have too big traffic driver costs. Look, I've spoken to a lot of people in industries and I'm definitely not the only one doing this. I think a lot of people are, weaning off that paid media drug.
Yeah, we spoke to another online retailer last year, Elliot Medallia from Booty, and same thing. They had just really focused on lower funnel for so long, and they did their first brand campaign last year, and they went hard.
Yeah.
You know, they got Jane Goodall as the face, who's huge, and, you know, really went hard on a big marketing campaign, and that really paid off for them. And it was the same conversation I think we're having now, which is the realization that people and consumers also want a bit more, right? They're loyal to brands. And if you're constantly focused on lower funnel and price point and relying on the brands that you sell, how do they come to you as a retailer when they're ready to buy hair care? Or are they looking for, as you say, Kerastase, and they're going to look for the lowest price point? So there's that balance, right?
Yeah, I agree. And because we are a multi-brand retailer, it's never going to be people type Kerastase. We want to make sure we're up there. So we'll always have a component to paid media, and that will always be there. Our goal is, I need a hair product, go to Oz Hair. Not, I need a hair product, type in.
I want Moroccan oil and not. Yeah, exactly.
And stores are going to help that for us because stores are a great way for branding. You know, a lot of our competitors who, I won't name them, but we know we're bigger than them online. But as a company, they're massive because they've had like over 100 stores. Their brand awareness, they're a lot bigger than ours because they've been around longer and they've got 100 stores.
Yeah.
Walking past a store and seeing that brand.
Subliminally sticks in your head.
Exactly, yeah.
So one area that we haven't talked about is affiliate marketing.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what you're doing in that space and how it's working for you.
Yeah, it was really good. So one of those things about, you know, when it works, double down on it.
Yes.
This is something, you know, one of those things as well. Wish I realised this, you know, 2 years ago.
You told me this story about how you did your first influencer campaign. How much did you pay for it?
Okay, so yeah.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, this is one thing. Yeah, this didn't work, right? So 7 years ago, but was 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Cost about $7,000. I won't name the influencer, but it was one that would have more male followers than
maybe some fake followers.
Fake followers, male followers, than female followers, not very influential in the hair and beauty space.
Yep.
You know, we gave her some free products and it was some Mother's Day campaign and I was better off getting $7,000 and throwing it off a balcony because at least some of that $7,000 hopefully would have just flown back in from the wind. You know, I would have got some money back.
Oh, Lord.
Sandwiched between heaps of other ads.
Yes.
Wrong audience, no testing.
Yep.
So that didn't work.
Terrible. I think some of the influencers, they still do to this day, but like they just take a photo holding a product and go, I love this product. And it's like, if I scroll a week ago, you were using a different shampoo and you said exactly the same thing.
Wasn't that some controversy of Kim Kardashian of something that was meat and she's vegan, I think?
Yes. I think that was, there's so many classic cases of that.
Yeah.
I think the Khloe Kardashian one where she had a cupboard full of cleaning products and I was like, girl, there's no way you clean your house. Like, get off it.
No, 100%. No way. That's an example of like going lower funnel, not top of funnel in terms of like you just focus on the sales straight away, not on the long term. But I guess when they're that big, they'll always get stuff.
Awareness. It drives awareness. But so basically it didn't work for you.
Didn't work for me.
So what'd you do? Because it's working now.
Look, it's hard to measure. You know, our brand has grown. So we moved from 28 to 44% of brand awareness, which is pretty good. On top of influencers, though, we've done heaps of other stuff.
Yes.
It's hard to know if it's worked heaps, but it's something that we're still doing. I think it's part of a whole brand, you know, subconscious Chinese water torture, Oz Hair and Beauty, constantly in people's face.
We
is
won't
a cool
call
channel.
it Chinese water torture. We'll just call it something more positive, like positive impact of influence or something.
Yeah, positive impact of, okay, we'll talk that.
And so, affiliate obviously is so much more than influencer marketing. And I think most people kind of gravitate to influencer marketing first. So what else are you doing in that space?
We've partnered up with Commission Factory and they go to Shopback, Cash Rewards. They manage that for us because we I don't have the time to manage all those different affiliates. And you know, we got recommended to them by a standing CMO, and one of those things where, you know, you put money in, you see a good ROAS, you know.
You just keep putting it in.
Keep putting it in.
Yeah.
And it's working. And now what we're doing now is we're trying to really, instead of doing like an overall approach, we're just per brand, we're segmenting certain offers per brand. certain brands provide more margin. So
Excellent.
yeah.
That's really good. As a retailer, that's really interesting that you're able to segment that. And so going to continue on in that aspect, obviously, working well for you.
Yeah, that's one thing we're doing. Yeah, we're not. That works well. You know, obviously some months better than others.
Yep.
It is still a form of paid marketing.
Interesting. Some others would argue that it's cost of goods sold.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point because you only pay and once you've sold the product. So yeah, that's a good point. That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. It's definitely a channel, I would say, that needs to be activated.
Yeah, definitely.
With a marketing lens.
Yeah, that's actually, I've never looked at it like that.
Yeah.
It could be put, but you know, we're trying to improve our margins here on the book, so we're not going to put it under that thing. But yeah, no, that's correct. That is a good way to look at it because unlike Google, you only pay once you've got the sale.
Yeah.
So it's a good tip there.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Have a think about that, how you balance those books tomorrow. So let's talk about kind of that shift that you're now taking towards more of that long-term strategy in the brand. And obviously becoming an omni-channel brand is really important to you. What else are you doing to kind of drive that repeat customer?
I read a great book, How Brands Grow.
We'll leave a link to it in the show notes.
I wish I read it. I wish I read it 2-3. Like SEO thing I said, like I wish I'd read it 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
Because what the science says in this book, because he doesn't have any opinion, he just presents the science.
Yep.
The best way to grow retention is to grow your market share. You look at all the companies in all different industries, the higher the brand market penetration, the higher their repeat purchase rate is. Loyalty programs, we have it there. We did it. We launched it.
It's table stakes now, though, a loyalty program, don't you think?
It rewards your loyal customers anyway.
Yeah.
But
you have to.
I've looked at all competitors, not just competitors, but public companies that you have access to and chats and, I've got a great standing CMO. Loyalty programs don't really increase overall retention. It just increases the overall, it increases the loyal customers that are loyal anyway, which is a good thing too.
Well, average basket size and things like that is always a good thing if you're moving the needle, even at a small percentage. But yeah, I agree. There's definitely some research to suggest that it's not necessarily only part of the decision-making process. You have a loyalty program, that's great, but is that going to convert people? Not necessarily.
Well, for us and from the data that I've looked at, it doesn't really convert the one buyer to the two buyers. People are like buyers. Like, I'm sure you purchased something from a business and you did not purchase it again because of any marketing campaign they didn't do. They probably did all these campaigns, but you just weren't ready to purchase it for another 13 months. And if you're doing active customers on a 12-month basis, you're technically a churn customer, but not for any reason. It's just how so I think a lot of people are just like category buyers. So our goal is for retention, we want to try subscription, but what we want to do is we want to increase our brand. So we looked at the data and says the people with the highest penetration, the highest brand awareness have higher retention rates. So let's increase our brand and let's get more of these light category buyers.
Yep.
As science says in other industries, your retention will naturally get better.
Increase with the footfall, right?
Increase with the footfall.
Yep.
Yeah. Also, omni-channel retailers, people with bricks and mortars have, that people that shop on both are more loyal, data says. So we're going to try and do that. Look, by the end of this year, we'll only have 4. So it's not like anything massive.
You're starting off in some big centres with some big foot traffic.
So yeah, we want to really increase our brand. And, we got a purple colour. A lot of competitors are all black and white. We want to own this purple colour. We want people to think subconsciously like Priceline.
Priceline's pink.
And we want to own purple.
Yeah.
And we're very strict. When we own the store, we want to make sure that colour purple is the same colour on our website. So QVB we stuffed that up.
Time for a reno.
But we're being strict on that.
Yeah.
That colour purple. And we want to really own that colour. And just, we're all selling the same stuff, but let's try and sell it in a different language.
Yeah.
Different branding.
Yeah.
And try and do it in a different way.
Smart. And I think the way that you're sort of heading into the strategy very slowly is also smart because there is kind of this shift from a consumer perspective. COVID definitely changed the way that we are purchasing products.
Yeah.
And maybe some of the products, which hair care for some people might sit in that category if it's a if it's a kind of like a lower investment purchase, right? Unless I'm switching hair brands, I'm usually loyal to one brand. I've had the same shampoo for 10 years and maybe switch it up every now and then, but I know what I want.
Yeah.
And so, that online retail aspect is just way easier for me as a consumer. You stepping into brick and mortar, when a lot of brick and mortar is stepping away from it, heading more online, it's just a really interesting space in flux. And so I think that strategy to go slow, but hit some pretty big centres while you're doing it, be very selective in some pretty interesting and high spend markets and see how it goes is like the smart approach.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, we're testing these 4. If these 4 work, and quite nerve-wracking, but if it does work, which not, pretty confident it will, but if it once we get an idea over a couple months that it works, then it's on for young and old.
Yeah, yeah.
They're going to really
and look,
have
you guys seem to be pretty chill about if things don't go right, from what I hear. A bit annoyed at the time, but, you live and learn and you keep going, so.
Yeah, we got great team, great brand. There's no real reason why it won't work.
Well, then it will.
Yeah, it will. Yeah.
It's going to work. It's going to be amazing.
Next year.
Yeah.
We'll talk about
we'll be here next year talking about the other 40 stores that you're launching next year.
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
All right. Well, I've got one last question for you. What do you think is going to happen in the future when it comes to retail?
Obviously, 2023 is going to be a bit tough for online, but I think it's just just a bit of a valley.
A valley's a pretty big dip.
Valley's a dip, so it's a bit of a
or maybe a plateau. I like to say plateau. I think we've been on a pretty big steep growth curve, right? And so maybe we're just going to chill out a little bit for a little while.
100%. So like you said, we always look long term. So if we look 10 years now, so over a 20-year period, this will be a little blip into what's to come. I still do think online is definitely going to keep growing, but it's going to be the Omni. And you look at the results from the half years, the public companies' results, the ones we've both have done really well. The ones we've just online haven't done that well. So I think it's important. The future is both. You can't be completely customer centric if you're not available to the customer whenever they want to shop, however they want to shop. Yeah.
So true. A little bit of a burning question. Amazon picking up speed in this market, Prime, next day delivery. You think you'll head back into working with another online retailer?
We do in New Zealand. Yeah. We're trying to build that market up. I can't never say never, but definitely on the next 2-3 years.
Maybe we'll be sitting here next year and you're like, yeah, we're getting into it.
I'm sure there's big American multi-channel, multi-brand retailers doing that. So we'll see. Yeah.
Anthony, thank you so much for joining the podcast. Really great story. Very excited for the future of Oz Hair and Beauty. We're going to have all of the details in the show notes of the books that you mentioned and also, when the stores are launching and where to go and visit them. Thank you again. Good luck and all the best for the future.
No worries. Thank you so much. It's been great.
Have you hit the follow button on this podcast in your podcast app? It helps us a lot if you do. It helps even more if you tell a friend about the show and they do it too. Remember, if you have feedback or a good marketing story to tell, contact us via email, preferably with a voice note. We have another exciting episode coming up. Here's a sneak peek. What do you think is the future of cashback or credit back?
The future is definitely more instant. There's so much friction that exists with this 60 to 90 day delay for customers. So solving the problem for the customers is reducing that friction and even coming to the point where we no longer need a click. I think how good would it be to just go on and link your card and then shop anywhere knowing that you're going to get these rewards.
If you aren't already, don't forget to follow so you don't miss an ep. And while you're there, why not drop us a rating and review? We'd love to hear what you think. Flex Your Hustle is made possible by the great team at Commission Factory and produced by Ample. I'm Michelle Lomas. Keep hustling and bye for now.
Commission Factory.